Yo, it's Market Scraper. So how's it going? Today was a pretty crazy day with the stock market. And I just want to talk about really quickly if this is something that we should be worried about or this is something that we should be taking advantage of. And I hope you guys held on to your seats, held on to your shares, and even bought more stocks. Let's get into this. And if you get any value from this content, don't forget to put a smash down on that like button. It really helps this content, helps other people see this video. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. It's free to do, and I'd really appreciate it. Okay, well, today was pretty crazy. We had stocks drop incredibly. We had some stocks that were just dropping 20%, 30%, 10%, and anywhere in between that. And so I saw my stocks drop a lot. And my stocks dropped so much that just from today alone was the equivalent of how much paper losses that I had from the peak in February to the bottom in March. It's pretty incredible how much my stocks lost. This is also a testament for how much my stocks have gained since then to now, but that's another thing in terms of obviously my stocks didn't drop 35 or 40% today like they did from February to March of 2020. But so what did I do today? Did I sell some shares? Did I buy some shares? I added to a few key positions today. And the positions I added to, I've posted a few here. We can see on Twitter. If you want these kind of updates, definitely follow me on Twitter here. So I added to Tesla. And this was one of the biggest Tesla buys that I've done in quite some time. So let's just look at the quick reason of why I did that. If we look at Tesla's chart over here, this is the stock right here. And I always like to buy this stock when we hit this line. So I saw this hit this line twice, then I drew this line here, I made buys here, I bought here, and I bought here. Keep in mind, well obviously, and then what did I do here? I bought more over here with an average price of 630 bucks, but keep in mind that my biggest buys were way back here. So my cost basis on this position is quite low, but I like to continuously try to add to this position. And I, just for full disclosure, I did sell a significant chunk around $820. So basically I've rebought almost all of those shares already. And this is just, it's a position that I'm trying to trim back a little bit, have some gains, use that for other things, especially like crypto and some other opportunities. But I'm trying to buy back more into the stock now when I see these good deals and these attractive valuations because of the exciting opportunities that Tesla has in the future, especially with autonomous driving and the opportunities with AI and the like. So if we go back to my Twitter account, I also increased my Palantir holdings by around 30% today. I wasn't expecting to triple my Palantir position from a week ago. I was expecting to double it, don't get me wrong. I talked about my opportunity that I was watching and waiting for quite some time for the expiration lockup period time, for the lockup period expiration date, that one. And there was a pretty interesting comment from one of my subscribers that asked, what are some other companies with a lockup expiration period coming up soon? And I responded, I was like, okay, let me look at what some companies are. And I found out that Xpeng is actually having a lockup period actually today. So yesterday I told them that, okay, well, maybe we could see a drop go to fill the gap down here. And that was around $33.52 or so, I think. And we saw a drop today go down to $32.80, somewhere around there. So that was pretty interesting. And yes, I didn't get the exact bottom of where that would be, but the idea of having this low point of where you might think price action would go to. And you don't want a low point where it's like price doesn't even actually get to your point, because then if you set buy orders there or something like that, then you don't get to buy any shares. And then also it's hard to time the exact bottom too, because who can time the exact bottom? But if you have a point in mind where you're trying to think of, okay, price probably will try to fill this gap. Obviously, price can overshoot that a little bit sometimes, but when it fills this gap, that's when you do these buy orders here. And that's where technical analysis can also be pretty powerful. So the other thing with Palantir, why did I buy more Palantir stock anyway? So we can see here, this is today's chart. Intraday, we went down pretty significantly, and I missed this. We went down below 24 at some point intraday. So I missed that opportunity, unfortunately, but we had a significant pullback on the second pullback intraday. We went below $25 for a moment, so I bought more shares at 25 and below 25 a little bit, I think, as well. And that's when I just started to load up on shares. And every time we started dipping below again, I started to load up more shares. And quickly, what did I know? I added 30% more to my position already. So that was pretty exciting. And what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to sell more covered calls aggressively. And at the moment, the covered calls that I'm eyeing right now, that I probably sold or at least try to sell, were $30 strikes that expire at the end of the week. And I'm doing it, I'm not being as conservative as I might be because I have a lot of shares now. I wouldn't mind, I don't want my shares to be called away, but I wouldn't mind, it wouldn't be the worst thing. I wouldn't freak out over shares being called away from me now that I've accumulated more shares. So that's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to selling Palantir weekly covered calls every week, basically. I'm excited to do that, to gain some extra income on the side and to watch my Palantir shares grow, because I think that this is an opportunity, and I think that Palantir will grow significantly in the years to come. And finally, the other position that I did as well was I added more to my Riot position. So for my crypto play, I added more Riot. It went down pretty significantly because basically in the initial drop, the only opportunity that I really took advantage of was Tesla. I just started buying Tesla shares. Then after that, again, I bought Palantir. This was a secondary opportunity. And then after Palantir, let me just go search for it right now. Riot, R-I-O-T. Basically, Riot had an opportunity that occurred later on in the day. So basically, the initial drop, Tesla. The secondary drop, Palantir. And then the final drop over here, this is where I bought Riot. So it just worked out very nicely that in the day, there were different opportunities that arose throughout the day. So basically, that this is something to look into sometimes. You find this opportunity on the big crashes, and because some stocks recover slower than other stocks. This kind of reminds me back in the March crash. I started buying certain shares of stocks then, right at the lows. But then there were other stocks that stayed depressed even longer, like REITs and other stocks like that, which I started to pick up even in April, beginning of April, they were still at the lows. So this was an opportunity where I saw, again, Palantir was during the second type of movement down, and then maybe Bitcoin was crashing and it suppressed Riot's price. And this is when I started to buy more Riot shares. And so now I have enough shares of Riot that I started to sell covered calls against Riot now, because I have additional shares that I don't mind. Again, I don't want my shares to be called away. So I have a call that I sold, I think this week, expires on Friday, for an $80 strike. So just letting you guys know what I'm doing here. This is not financial advice. So this drop was pretty intense. And one other thing that I like to do with technical analysis is I like to just have a trend on my S&P 500 chart here. And basically this gives me an idea of when I want to accumulate shares and when I want to maybe just not buy as many shares. So I'm using technical analysis by saying these peaks over here is kind of when I'm going to maybe buy less. Not necessarily sell, I could maybe sell, and these bottoms are when I want to buy more. And so we're at this point today, at that bottom, when I want to accumulate more shares. And not saying that we can't go through this. We did over here, we had a false breakdown. So we want to make sure that when we do go through this, we have a full candle below the line here to give us a more of a bearish indication that we're going to see lower lows. The other thing we want to see in the near future, because this looked pretty bearish, and we did hold the line here though, so that was positive. The one other thing that we want to pay attention to that could give us an early indication which direction we might go in the near future is basically we are making higher lows consistently. So that's good. Now, are we going to consistently and keep making higher highs? So this is the question here. When we finally end up recovering, we might not recover in a single day, it might take a few days, might take a week. Whenever we do, if we don't make higher highs and fail to break above this point over here, which is $394.17, this could give us an indication of a double top or a failure to break out from all-time highs here, and could be somewhat of a bearish signal. So it just could be. And so we want to keep that in mind as what the things to look out for, just these little pieces of the puzzle that give us an indication of what might be happening next. Well, I hope you guys got some value from this content. And if you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. And keep in mind that none of this is financial advice. This is just some random guy on YouTube drawing some stick figure lines on a chart talking to you guys.